Hi, welcome to the True Master Games YouTube channel. My name, of course, is Alex, and in this episode of Game Master's Musings, we will be talking about Session 0, which is an extremely important topic in my opinion. I'm always extremely surprised by the amount of people that don't know what a Session 0 is, or that know what it is, but kind of they never find or take the time to do one. Role-playing, at its core, is communal collaborative storytelling. It's a team activity, right? And as such an activity, it works best if all the players and the game master are all sort of on the same level. They all know what the basic rules and the expectations are before committing to a long-term campaign. That is exactly where Session 0 comes in. It is a session that you have, as the name already says, before the campaign, before you start playing in Session 1, where you sit together and talk about what kind of game you want to run and what kind of game your players would want to play. The aim, of course, is the goal of said Session 0, to get rid of problems, any type of problems really, before they can arise. There are really 4 points that you should be talking about in a Session 0. And these are the 4 points that I will be presenting to you in this video. Let's start with number 1, the game pitch. What kind of game, of campaign, does the Game Master want to run, and what kind of game or of campaign do the players want to play? The game pitch can be in very broad strokes, like just saying I'm running a investigative detective style film noir-like campaign, or I'm running a large-scale war campaign inspired by World War II or something along those lines. There are really about 4 main pillars when it comes to role-playing and the activity that the player characters will be doing. There is, of course, combat. There is exploration, getting to know new territories and new places. There is diplomacy in the wider sense of the word, interacting with NPCs and talking to them. And there is investigation, looking for clues, connecting clues to find a solution to some sort of problem. In this first part, in the pitch of Session 0, you are talking about the level of weight you want to put on each of these 4 pillars in your campaign. Is it more a investigative style campaign with heavy diplomacies, or is it a nearly exclusively combination of combat and exploration or some such? It is very important at the very start of the campaign for everyone to find an approximate common ground in these issues, so that everyone knows what to expect from this campaign, and especially also so that players can sort of prepare their characters accordingly. If you say that you are going to run a exploration combat-based campaign with very little diplomacy and NPC interaction, one of your players might have had the idea of someone who's very shitty in combat and has really bad perception and doesn't know anything about the outdoors and so on, but is a great talker, the face of the party, can talk to anyone and everyone. But that sort of character is not going to be very interesting in a campaign like that, not very successful, and that might frustrate players. So talking about these things beforehand can get rid of that issue, hopefully. The second point to raise in a Session 0, in a successful one anyway, is the style of play. And by that I mean, how serious is your game? Do you allow a lot of joking around? Is it more of a role-playing sort of thespian game, so to speak, where people actually speak as their characters, where they try to delve deep into relationships and motivations of their characters with each other? Or is it more of a board gamey, dungeon crawly, combat tactical map approach to the game? How loosey-goosey are you with the rules? Do you want to stick to them as they are described in the role-playing manual, so to speak, in the player's handbook or whatever you have for your game? Or is it more of a, our rules aren't that important, we'll just tell a cool story together? Is the rule of cool important to you? So if a player tries something that is cool, but the rule-wise has little to no chance of success, would you increase the odds of that succeeding? And of course, how much realism and verisimilitude do you want in your games? I, for instance, I'm a massive sucker for realism and verisimilitude. I've done a whole Game Masters Musing video on these topics. I'll put the link in the description below the video if you're interested. But other people might disagree and say, I don't care about realism or verisimilitude in my games. The main thing is that everyone has fun, and that's perfectly fine too. The third part of a successful session zero is game etiquette, or table etiquette maybe, because it touches upon things in the game and without the game too. Trust is extremely important in role-playing games. If a group trusts their game master and each other, you'll have a much better experience than a group that doesn't quite know what to expect from everyone else. Role-playing is a communal exercise, and the group that trusts in each other is always going to have more fun. Game etiquette seeks to address the trust issue and hopefully get rid of a lot of problems that might destroy trust or prohibit trust from ever really forming within the gaming group. The things that you're talking about, and we are talking about, are things like taboo themes. How far is too far in your game? Is the description of a specific activity something gruesome and brutal? Is that too much? A lot of people ban any type of sexuality, especially sexual violence, from their games, because that's a theme that a lot of people are very uncomfortable with. So that sort of thing, things that people are uncomfortable with, is what you should be talking about in this part of session zero. But also things like, what happens when there's a rule disagreement between the game master and the player? Do we resolve it at this very moment and put the game on hold until it is resolved? Or do we say, okay, game master, I trust you, you'll do whatever you think is right, and then after the game we'll talk about it in more detail? What about secrets that player characters hold? Is everyone encouraged to share these secrets, or are people fine with basically individual player characters hoarding secrets and keeping knowledge from each other? What about player versus player conflict? Do you roll dice? Do you completely forbid it at your table? Do you say that if one player character tries to persuade another player character, for instance, do they have to role play it out and the player and his character have to actually be persuaded? Or is a roll enough with maybe a counter roll from the other side? How do you want to handle that sort of thing? What about murder hoboing? Is that sort of thing encouraged or discouraged at your table? Do you mind if people say, okay, I'm just going to kill these guys? Or is that something that you as the game master or you as a fellow player say, no, I can't, and I don't want to play with that at all because that destroys all my fun? What about alcohol at the gaming table? Are you fine with a couple beers? Most people would be, I assume. But what about slightly more heavy drinking as such? Some people try to heavily discourage that sort of thing because it affects the fun of everyone involved. But if everyone's fine with that, sure, have some drinks and have fun. There's no problem about that as such if everyone's on board. And then, of course, things like attention focuses and digital devices combined with that topic. Are you fine with people having their phone at the gaming table and when it's not their turn, say in combat, looking things up on their phone? I don't know, writing messages or hanging out on Facebook or something like that? Or do you think that that is disrespectful towards the game master and the other players? I personally, for instance, think that digital devices, unless they're used for the game, should never be on the table as such. It's fine if you have a phone in your pocket and if there's a short break in the game, you can step away from the table and have a short conversation or write a message or something. But I personally think that doing something else, basically reading a book or playing around on your phone while everyone else is playing and you not paying attention, is disrespectful and can damage a game. But if you have a different opinion on that, more props to you, really. And then finally, the fourth topic, we have the rules and the character creation. This is a fairly broad topic, and it affects things like, do we have house rules? Do we play by the book? If it is a system that has multiple rule books, what rule books are allowed? Are specific parts of the rule system designed to be changed by the game master? And has the game master done that sort of thing? Has he outright banned specific classes or races or books or whatever he doesn't want in his game world? Basically, what limitations to the official rules, what changes to the official rule has the game master, or does the game master want to implement? And is everyone okay with that? Do you want to talk about a party theme, something that connects the party, gives them a reason for adventuring together? Is the party theme a gang of vicious cutthroats? Is the party theme a group of arcane investigators? Is the party theme a pirate crew and their ship? Or a crew of smugglers on a spaceship, which we're talking about more of sci-fi, Star Wars or something in those along those lines type of game. Do we want to have a well-rounded party? So do we want to have the classic, I don't know, damage dealer, tank, healer sort of combination that is very MMO-like? Or do we not give a crap about that at all and everyone just designs their own character? Do we want to have connections between the characters from before the game starts? Or do we have a classic, you all wake up together in a dungeon or you all meet up in a tavern sort of opening where the player characters get to know each other within the start of the game itself? And how well and how does the party fit into this world is sort of a connected topic with that. And the Game Master should try to share at least some basic information about the world with the party so they can try to find a way to fit into this world and of course design their backstories to fit into this world, which leads to a higher depth of the game itself and hopefully also to a higher depth of enjoyment for the people involved. And after session 0, you have a list, let's call it, of things that you have agreed upon not to do or not to do. A very important thing is to honor that agreement over the course of the campaign. Of course, you can feel free at any time to raise issues and say, okay, let's revisit these things that we have talked about in session 0. Maybe we would like, as a group, to change these things. But don't just say as a player or as the game master, I'm making an executive decision, I'm changing that, I'm not gonna talk about that to anyone else, I'll just change that. Because that sort of thing can lead to frustration and conflict and arguments and, in the worst case, to breaking apart of the gaming group and even of your group of friends if it goes to the very extreme as such. Hopefully, session 0 has helped you out to make your campaign the best it can be and avoid all those potential mistakes, all those horror stories really that you see on here on the internet mainly and from maybe friends and acquaintances that have left gaming groups and such. Most of them could have been prevented by having a great session 0. Now let me know in the comments below the video, what do you think about the session 0? Are you using it? Are there things that you would raise in a session 0 that I have not talked about in this video? As always, if you liked our content, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The subscribe link should be appearing somewhere right up there. We'll be running more games and talking about more Game Master stuff in the future. And as always, good luck with your own games. Until we see each other again, True Mouse Games says thank you and bye-bye.